It is my pleasure here to transition a little bit. This is going to feel like it's Kootenai County centric, but I urge you that this is something that can sweep across the state in your county. And if anyone's looking inside Idaho right now at this program from other states, this is definitely going to be worth your time as well. I want to invite on here Michael Ashley and Brigadier General Brian Holt, who's joining us by phone today. But the three of us are here now, and we wanted to go over something called that they've developed here in Kootenai County called the Kootenai Stability and Resilience Group. And Michael, I first want to go to you. Welcome to the program. What can you tell us about your connection here with the general and how this thing got started? And then we'll get into the impetus for it. So give us a little backstory about your guys' connection, because you're an author, you're a screenwriter and stuff from Hollywood, and the good general from a flag officer from the Air Force. How did you guys hook up here?
Sure. Well, I guess it was an unlikely beginning. We met through a fellow friend who's also a member of this group now, named Nels Jensen. He's a businessman here in North Idaho. And I had just given a speech recently about the dangers of techno-fascism that you and I have talked about just recently at the Lincoln Day dinner. And we were concerned about what we saw happening to our community. We were worried about so-called black swan events occurring here, not knowing whether it's going to be the border crisis, perhaps World War III, who knows what's coming. And we thought the three of us got together for lunch, I think it was that day, and we decided that we had to do something for our community here to get involved. And yes, we all have different skill sets, we all have different backgrounds, but we thought that we could come together and build something special here in our community to both protect it and to make it stronger.
Okay, great. Good general. How does that story sound to you? What brought you to meeting up here with Michael, and what is your background, sir?
So my background, and it's great to be with you on your show. I love Idaho Signal. It's something we definitely need across the state.
Thank you.
But I had originally been the vice commander at Fairchild just across the water in Spokane, Washington, many years ago. Knew I would always wanted to settle back here in northern Idaho after I retired. And when I did retire about 7 years ago, as the deputy representative to NATO, I went on a life of building businesses, doing entrepreneurship, startups. I'm involved with one right now. Actually, I'm probably involved with 5. But one of the things that I've done along the way, especially since COVID came about, as a strategist, you see, oh, COVID, now here's BLM and Antifa, here's the tumblers, or these sequence of events that lead to the disaster that was the 2020 election, no matter how you feel about it. And then we get to today after Kabul and all these things we see happening around the world. So I founded a national group called Restore Liberty. And that's about support of the Constitution. It's not political. It's not blue. It's not red. And one of the groups that we have, or one of the main focus areas that we have, is the thing we call County Guardian, or getting counties around their sheriffs and their governments to be not only resilient, but able to, in a grassroots way, get the people ready for a storm. And so here in Kootenai, we set up an example group that's being followed in about 26 counties across the United States. It's just taking off and getting going. But we went into a series of planning actions for what the unknown could look like and bring. I mean, my dear friend at CBS, well, formerly at CBS News, Catherine Herridge, she said at the beginning of the year, I see a black swan coming. Well, I would correct Catherine and say, listen, there's a potential for a flock of black swans coming. And that could be everything from financial collapse, 8 million fighting age illegals that are across our nation somehow going at us, a return of pandemics, and whatever else come what may. We don't have to be accurate at predicting exactly what comes our way. But what we should understand is that in all cases where there is an extreme event, whether it's natural disaster or, some nefarious actor doing an EMP on your community, electromagnetic pulse, the formula is the same. It's about bringing together the community so that not only do we not turn on each other, we're actually grabbing a shovel and supporting each other to get through whatever it is. And instead of saying, hey, local government, we're replacing you, it's the opposite of that. It's, we need our first responders, we need our elected officials, but unless we, the people, understand that it's going to take our hand in this, we're not going to get very far. So this is not what you would say a preppers group per se. It's more of a community resilience group. No tinfoil hats here, just brute force honesty that we're in very uncertain times. And
well, let me break in real. Yeah, let me break in real quick, General here, and Michael, the same to you. So, if you've been, a lot of folks in Idaho particularly, but a lot, when you find folks that are, living in the rural areas or living off the grid, and they sort of have this, like you said, this tinfoil hat mentality, and people sort of kind of ignore this thing. But we, you see a lot of folks who have woken up over the past few years because of the COVID pandemic and what the governments have been able to force onto people, and do this, you can't do this, all around the world, that people are kind of starting to open their eyes to the possibility that should there be any of those events that you outlined, that what are we going to do? And what I think is what I really like about going through your website and hearing you guys speak to is, this isn't just about, scaring people into taking some sort of action and go out and learn how to make your food that lasts for 25 years. It really is about connecting people. And we just talked about earlier about the strength of a community and knowing your neighbors and knowing everybody's strengths. Michael, can you give us a little bit of insight to your mindset when you look at this? Because you're a man of action. I've known you for a couple of years now, and you're always involved in wanting to make sure that we can do something and not just sit around and worry and complain. What is it about this group that you hope connects people to do something?
Sure. Well, and thank you for saying that. I would say that the problem that we have goes back many decades, to the fact that we've become so attuned to doing nothing. We've been so abundant, so wealthy in this country here, that we've lost the skills of our ancestors. So not long ago, I happened to read Laura Ingalls Wilder, Little House on the Prairie, to my son. And I was reading that book, and here's a story about a family that is resilient. A family that can make their own bullets, they can raise their own food, they're slaughtering their own animals to provide food for themselves and for others. But not only that, they had a community. They had a community life where they knew their neighbors. Yes, they were separated by great distances, but they took care of one another. And it's funny, but over the last few decades here, we've gotten much better with our technology. We have these wonderful phones, we have these computers. Obviously, we're all in different places right now having this conversation. But what we've lost is the ability to connect with each other. Not only do we not have those skills to, let's say, build our own bullets, to raise our own animals and crops and take care of ourselves, but we're not connecting with one another. We've lost the interpersonal connection. And I would argue that this is on purpose. There's a recent film called Leave the World Behind. It's on Netflix right now. And at one point, the protagonist gets on there and says that he is basically a useless man. Without the phone in his pocket, there's nothing that he can do. And so going back to your question earlier, we want to change that mentality. We want to show people that this is not something to be overly terrified about. We should be concerned about what's going on, but instead of being too frightened and too scared, we should, as Blaine mentioned, get a shovel, start doing something, start learning these skills. Number one, start getting invested in our community, and start participating in something that will help our neighbors, because we don't know what's coming. And as a very social species, all of us have different values and skills that we bring. And so think about the ways in which you can help your neighbor. Maybe you're good at fishing, maybe you're good at farming. Whatever it is, there is something that you can do to help one another. And rather than focus on the many problems that we have, perhaps we are going into World War III, I do not know. Instead of focusing on the doomsday scenarios, think about ways in which we can help one another and turn around a situation that we should have turned around a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Okay, good. All right. Well, we only have a few minutes left. General, you, as a general, I imagine you've given out a lot of orders. So I'm ready for some orders here. What can people do? Right now, you're focused on Kootenai County, and I think it's great that these things are localized like that because, you need to be in close proximity to people. But what are some orders? What can people do to learn more about what you're doing and the next steps that they need to do in order to feel like they have a fighting chance should something happen?
Yep. Step one is recognition. You've got to recognize that we're in different times than we have been in the past. So set aside whatever you think about somebody being overly prepared for some dystopian future that's not going to come. Realize to yourself that no, we could be coming into some hard times that are going to require us to come together as a community. If you do that and you get with your own community leaders, then don't reinvent the wheel. Come to us at ksrg.org or restore-liberty.org and get together to learn about a county guardian program of your own in Idaho, to get your own county set and working together through a process. This is not about canning food and making bullets. This is about transportation, logistics. What are the resources of your county? What type of brains do you have in your county that can answer the call across different areas? What are the 3 phases that you would have to answer for? We call the immediate phase the tourniquet phase. How do we put a tourniquet on the community if something bad happens, from communications outages to we've got a big problem with migrants or whatever it may be. Pull the community together, and then don't reinvent the wheel or start over. Come to where there's a lot of best practices already in play, and we're happy to help anybody who wants to take on such a task. In fact, you'd be surprised. I already have Matt, some folks from Seattle, King County, who have called me and said, we want a county guardian program. Where do we begin? How do we get going? Because this is not blue, red, left, right. I'm a liberal. You're not. We can do that later. But right now, we need to be ready for now.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, great. Well, Michael, do you guys have something coming up related to this, an event?
Yes, we do. Thank you for bringing it up. So we have our first ever volunteer day. That's going to be at Axe Force One next Saturday, March 23rd from 9:30 to noon. Since we, Blaine and Dr. Duke from the Heart of Hope here in North Idaho, we created an op-ed a few weeks ago in which we told everyone about our group, and we've had such an outpouring of volunteers, of people that want to participate, and so we're onboarding all those people on March 23rd at Axe Force One. Come out and meet people who are also interested in partaking and assisting in these efforts. So we encourage you to show up to that event, please.
Excellent. Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks for doing that. We've been having your website scroll down there at the bottom, so hopefully you guys will get some attention from this broadcast. And, of course, we'll clip this out and make this available to share around all over. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, General, for joining us. And, I'm checking. I might have to show up to that volunteer day. The only thing I can offer is being able to speak on a microphone. So hopefully when you guys get the infrastructure back up, I can put out a message.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you. All right, folks. We'll be right back after this.
Surplus, which is not a surplus, it's an overcharging of the taxpayers.